A lot of the work that we do here in the Fingers Addiction Support Team is face-to-face. A lot of it is trying to, reduce people's anxieties coming into the building. They're exposing a lot of stuff that they're not actually proud of. A lot of it will carry a lot of shame with them. Being able to come to a building and have a safe space to be able to share that with a professional has been usually benefit for anybody coming into these types of services.
We are a social enterprise community organisation that is self-funding, and we have to generate our own income. We are home to lots of clubs, to dance groups, to exercise classes, to community forums, and we are also have a very good active retired association as well.
We're a community childcare organisation. I'm one of 3 managers, so I'm the childcare manager. So my remit really is around the children, child development, environments, Garda vetting, and lately COVID.
Most what we do support to migrants from our area, mental health support, social support as well.
So Global Action Plan is an environmental charity. We're international, we're in 27 countries. We're based here in Ballymun, so I think we came during the regeneration.
The University of the Third Age was started on March the 7th, 2004. So this year we're 19 years together. It was started by a very powerful woman called Vera Butler. She had seen many other groups being looked after, but particularly people that has retired from work, who has now entered a new strange environment at their homes. I was one of those. I worked all my life, and when I came home to my own home, things were very, very different.
BDIG was formed because we felt there was a lot of things which needed to be included in the regeneration to do with people with disabilities. Mobility itself is probably a difficulty. One of the major problems for people with disabilities is people parking cars on pavements.
Cabra for Youth is a youth organisation that is based here in the middle of Cabra, and we work with young people aged 10 to 24. And we are made up of 2 different projects. We have a mainstream youth service that works under UBU funding, so it's 10 to 24-year-olds, and then we have a youth diversion programme that's 12 to 18-year-olds, and that's a referral-based programme.
The club is one of the oldest basketball clubs in Ireland. We were set up, I think it's 1962. And the club has kept going ever since then, which is good. We cater for all ages of participants. Like we have an underage section for age 4 to 9, and then we have teams all the way up from underage, under 11, right up to under 20. And then we have senior men's teams, we have a Super League team.
My name is Mary Corrigan. I'm the Community Development Programme Manager with Dublin Northwest Partnership. We offer a range of supports to local community groups from the Community Development Programme. The supports include group training and individual mentoring and grants. We offer training in a variety of topics. So, for example, in project management, helping groups to write their funding applications, how to optimise their use of social media, maybe training around HR issues. Community groups come to group training and they find that the group training in itself isn't enough, that they need more specialised supports. It could be, for example, in strategic planning or in governance, typically. So we have a panel of subject matter experts, and we match the community groups with the mentors, and the mentor then works with the group for whatever length of time is necessary to help them to develop the confidence and competence in the areas that they have expressed need in.
When COVID happened, it was a big blow to the club because we're an indoor sport and we've always trained indoors and played our games indoors. We were afraid that we were going to lose some of our members because people weren't meeting twice a week or 3 times a week, whatever, to train.
Well, when the COVID started, it sort of held us up a lot because we couldn't get out and do things as we wanted to.
Well, the core, at any core of the youth work, is about that relationship that you build with young people, and everything that you do kind of stems from that. And we build a relationship in an informal way, so maybe through a cup of tea, through a game of pool, and it's all about a face-to-face interaction. And COVID just put a complete stop to that.
We were able to continue having our committee meetings on the Zoom. And we were helped in that with the Northwest Area Partnership. They provided funding for us.
It was devastating for everybody, young and old, but more so for ourselves, who were quite active and quite sociable. And we couldn't meet on the first part of the lockdown. We couldn't meet.
But COVID's challenges that came along with that was that we weren't allowed to do face-to-face with people. And I suppose it tested our own digital expertise in terms of being able to lift stuff from what would have been face-to-face right into either doing Zooms or phones or carrying out assessments over the phone.
But we kept very much in touch with each other through our phones, through text messages, which kept us going.
It had an effect on the garden itself, because initially we thought I thought it was only going to be for a few weeks. So I said, right, grow all the vegetables, all the seedlings, everything, because when people come back, you want them to have exactly the same experience they've had every year. So they were growing all the vegetables. Of course, nobody came back. So there was tons of vegetables here and I didn't know what to do with them.
When COVID hit, it was like literally a complete, I was actually in Lanzarote, so I was managing it from there for the first 2 days until I got home, and then we got back and literally it was just a complete shutdown.
So because I was looking after the vegetables, I couldn't look after the rest of the garden. So the second big lockdown, it was real, right, we'll leave the vegetables aside for a while and we'll just look after the garden. So, but then people passing by got free vegetables, so it worked out for them.
All our fundraising was gone because we used to do a bingo for fundraising, we couldn't have that.
On the online meetings, not all people are able to go online, and the special challenge have some older people from our group, and we have a good few of them, so who don't have good experience with the internet, for example.
I mean, when COVID happened in March, we shut down for 2 weeks thinking, 2 weeks, we'll be back in 2 weeks. It was actually not until the end of June that the children came back. But behind the scenes, the office was open and we were applying for different grants. We were updating policies because there was an awful lot of changes to all of our policies. We had spent 25 years trying to bring parents into the creche, and now we had to keep them outside the creche.
We were all afraid to mix with our friends. You still gave it a chance, that okay, if you caught it yourself, you didn't mind. But you were afraid of your life to give it to your mother or your father or your grandmother because they were old and we thought they might die on us. So therefore they were more isolated.
I suppose the first couple of months around COVID, everybody was up in the air. We were all unsure about what was happening and how things were going to go. I think we were even questioning our own mortality at some points.
Even their home helps, they couldn't go into them, and or they were going in full PPE gear, which is not very personable.
Yeah, I suppose COVID came upon us out of the blue like everybody else, and I suppose we really had to look at how we were going to continue our work. So we had to develop skills in technology, Zoom and Teams, so we were on a steep learning curve. I suppose developed an appreciation for the basics and how important the human contact was, and even just a phone call and how much people appreciated something that could be, underrated or overlooked. And also, I suppose we were involved then in the distribution of food parcels and activity packs to people in the community.
As soon as the government opened the guidelines a little bit and said that we could train outdoors and meet outside, we decided that we would get back training outside. So we got some funding with the help of the Dublin Northwest partnership. We bought outdoor nets and we set them up in the yard in the school, and all weathers, didn't matter whether it was raining or not, the club were down there on a Saturday and a Sunday.
The challenge of COVID wasn't just for the young people, it was for us as workers as well, a shared experience that we were all having at that time. So we did the usual things. We were also really lucky that our family support worker did food drops to families, because it was also a really tough time. As much as we were trying to engage young people and have conversations with them, there were so many other challenges that were also going on for them outside of that, So we used other methods then of sending things in the post, just also to keep that form of contact with young people, to let them know that we were thinking of them.
We offer grants to local community groups and to social enterprises for a variety of actions that promote social inclusion. So it could be something maybe to do with work with older people, it could be children with special needs, it could be work with migrants. So we have a grant scheme and we accept applications, and then we work with the groups to implement the actions.
We got funding for our Nature Explorer programme, and that is like pure gold, to get any funding for that. So it meant we could continue. And what we did as well during COVID was we sent packs out to families with all stuff to grow and crafts, and we had a live link. So they were all, and we linked in with them, and I was doing the demonstrations and they were doing it wherever they were. So the families in the hotel they all gathered together and they were planting their window boxes and making their potato heads and their labels and all sorts. The funding from the Northwest Area Partnership helped for that to go on.
We had to start using sanitisers, we had to set sanitising stations up. We purchased air purifiers, we had to change the layout of the rooms. We had to cut sessions shorter to allow cleaning in between pods. Pods, who knew what pods were?
It was a good time as well for us because it was a bad time in the colleges in Dublin. Many people who came from Brasilia, who came from South America countries, and they get a visa, but they must pay for a course in the colleges to learn English. And many of them paid for the course, but the colleges closed. And they didn't give the money back for the people, and they didn't offer any English. We are the group who offer them the English for free, and they can improve the English.
But what do you do? There were supports there, the government was supportive, there was grants from the local partnership, and that's how we got lovely outdoor play equipment. So a lot of the children's learning then went from inside to outside, and we spent as much time as we could outside. It was just safer.
So our exercise teacher, with the help of the partnership, we set up a online Zoom activity, our Active Retired exercise class on Zoom. So the teacher would come in here and put on our camera, and then I'd link them all in with Zoom, and they were doing it in their kitchens and their dining room tables and out their back gardens, and they were all kept moving, but also then kept them connected because they could have a chat beforehand and they could have a chat afterwards.
From having 12 people sitting in an aftercare group, we had to break that down into 2 groups on Zoom to be able to try and deliver the quality that we were trying to deliver. Trying to do it with big groups over Zoom just wasn't happening for us, so we had to come back to the drawing board and break down the groups, and I think initially we only had 6 in each Zoom sessions that we were doing.
So yeah, I think the organisation has strengthened though our ability. We realise now that actually we can be adaptable, we can be flexible. We always knew, but that was a whole other layer. And we also realised that although it was a challenge for everybody, that we still had that relationship, and we were able to, because afterwards we did get the young people back.
I think to have the ability to sit back, find out where you are, gather all your information, have really open discussions and good communication between everybody, between managers, between boards of management, between the parents, the staff. It was when there was gaps in that cracks started to appear. And again, the partnership were really helpful because they gave us funding to help us set up a website. We didn't have a website before, and that ended up being a really useful tool to communicate with parents.
So yeah, I think we're a lot stronger now. We know that we can overcome a lot of barriers, and also that we're able to show the young people that they're able to overcome a lot of barriers as well.
One of the really attractive things for myself coming to Fingers Addiction Support Team was actually having the space out in the garden and knowing the different types of projects that you could actually run from there. And one of the service users come up with an idea of designing a garden and putting an entry into one of the competitions around gardening or horticulture. So we decided to go for the big one, and we went for Bloom. Our garden was called The Many Pathways to Recovery, which kind of reflected the recovery-orientated system of care that we're trying to embed here in FAST. We had about 20 participants involved in that, and the CDETB came in and gave us a hand, and I know the partnership were responsible in getting us some funding around some garden furniture as well. But it was an excellent way of being able to bring groups back together in an environment where you weren't worried about COVID spreading between each other, and there was no masks and people were getting stuck in.
That's why I think we were all able to adapt, because I had so much help from people, and people like the partnership and the city council. There was always people there that you could ring and say, look, what do you think I should do with this, or how do I manage this?
Trying to replicate what happens in the garden recovery is planting a seed in somebody and saying to them, look, okay, you might be ready now, but let's have a look at what we can do with this seed. You provide nurture and light and care, and give that person unconditional regard in terms of what they're trying to achieve in this, and then at the end of it you have this beautiful either human being or plant or flower or vegetable or wherever it may be. And that was a really good way of kind of show and tell some of the service users that you're no different than the plant. If you're put into the right environment, the addiction can actually just fade away.
Community groups and social enterprises really value the opportunity to meet up with other groups doing similar work and with similar aims. So Dublin Northwest Partnership provides these opportunities in structured fora through the Social Inclusion Network and through the Dublin Northwest Community Development Workers Network. And these network meetings provide opportunities for groups to share information and to support each other with any challenges.
And I think the likes of Dublin Northwest now, who seems to be able to gather these groups now and make a connection between each group. I was at the last meeting we had over in the other place across the road there, and you could see that people, leaders of other groups, were putting out a hand to each other to say, look, what do you need? Can we help in any way? And I think that's what works.
The Community Development Programme is supported through the Social Inclusion Community Activation Programme, i.e. SICAP, and that's funded by the Department of Rural and Community Development.